Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our Q&A episode of our podcast that we do every month. I'm of course here with Colleen
Hello. Hi, everyone.
and here with Danny.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see you.
And we're also here with a group of 26 people, so 23 other people. This is our live Q&A, like I said, that we do once a month, that you have the opportunity to come on live with us and ask us any sort of Reiki questions. We have conversations about different Reiki subjects, also other spiritual questions. I know sometimes we have questions that are outside of specifically just Reiki, and we love those questions as well. So, we try to keep it pretty casual. There are ways to come on to this episode and ask your questions anonymously also. So if you would like to come and join us, we would love to have you. You can learn more about it all at reikilifestyle.com under our podcast tab. So before we get into the invocation, just a few announcements. This is coming out on Monday, the 23rd. And we do have some Animal Reiki classes coming up after that. So we have Animal Reiki Master and Animal Reiki 1 and 2. You get to take that with Colleen, myself, and Sue Strong. So 3 teachers, which is always really great because it's a small student to teacher ratio. And also we're 3 of the 4 authors of the ICRT Animal Reiki course and manuals. So we would love to see you there. Colleen is teaching a 7-day Karuna Reiki class and experience with William Rand in November. And really amazing. It's in Hana, Hawaii. And so you not only get to take Karuna Reiki from the both of them, but you also get to experience the magical place that is Hana. You can find out more information. That one is at reiki.org. So you can find more information about that class at reiki.org. Then in December, we are teaching Animal Reiki 1 and 2. Colleen is teaching regular Reiki 1 and 2 and Reiki Master in December. And also, we will be opening registration around then for our 2024 classes, Next Step Reiki and Explore the 12 Heavens. We will be talking more about that soon, but just keep an eye out for that because those classes are really amazing. Exploration, journeying, in-depth Reiki training, and just wonderful, wonderful community and classes. All right, I think I got the announcements. Danny, did I get the announcements? All right, she always keeps us on track. Okay, well, I think Colleen, you are going to go ahead and lead us in an invocation now.
Yep.
So we'll
Okay.
let you do that.
All right. So a caveat with the invocation for any of you that are listening, driving a car, or doing something that you need to be focused on what you're doing. Sometimes these invocations go very deep. And right now I feel deep. So it's likely that this one will do that. And so just listen later if it's not a good time for you to go into a very deep Reiki state. Sometimes you're able to just let it wash over you and listen without going into a deep state too, and that's totally possible. And just so you know, Reiki works that way as much as it does and as powerfully as it does when you go deep with Reiki. And by going deep, I mean you go into that very relaxed state. Sometimes people go into the gap, which is, not, you're not somewhere else and you're not asleep either. And then also sometimes people do fall asleep, and all of those, and then receiving Reiki when you are busy and doing other things is equally as powerful. What you notice with each one is that there's a different experience. So, sometimes when you're in that deep Reiki state, then, you're in that one experience and you may have, really deep insights and things happening. Sometimes they're fantastical things that happen. And then when you are doing Reiki, kind of letting it wash over you, or Reiki on the fly, a lot of times those insights come in through that kind of quick understanding of something, or things working in an easier flow. So they show up differently, but it still works as powerfully. So with all that said, when we go into an invocation like this, do what is appropriate for you, but also if you find that you're okay, letting that Reiki energy just wash over you, and still do what you're doing. That's completely as helpful. So if not, then fast forward to where we start the conversation and listen later. All right. Okay, so go ahead then, and if you are able, close your eyes and take some deep breaths. Place your hands in Gasho, your two hands coming together at your heart. As the light from the highest heavens shines down between your hands and through your heart. And as you breathe in the light, you breathe in the light and the power and the authority of love. And love fills your breath and flows through into your body, and awakening and revealing that power of love within you. And where you are at this moment in your life circumstances today. Place your hands comfortably on your body, opening your body, receiving the vitality and vibrancy of Reiki energy, power of the earth, the brilliance of the heavens. Breathe deeply. Receive the light on the power of the divine mind, your pure mind. Kriya, 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 Kriya. Divine compassion is here within you, and the spirals of its symbol are deep in the earth underneath your feet and connected to your soul star, or your earth star beneath your feet. Well, your soul star too. And then Kriya is connected with the spirals in the earth and the handles over your feet, and the energy of it spiraling up from the earth with consistency, compassion, connecting you with the earth as Kriya connects your knees with the earth, and then your hips, and each of your chakras, flowing upward, the stability of the earth rising through you and flowing upward. And now through each chakra, imagine Kriya connecting your solar plexus and your heart, your throat, third eye, and crown. Now your soul star, and above you, Kriya, divine compassion, clarity of purpose and priorities. And it connects you with your life today. And as you breathe in the light of the divine mind, awakening your divine mind, your higher thought and higher consciousness, your human mind aligned with your heart, your gut, all the way through the earth, out above you into the heavens, and receiving from the earth itself, like the branches of the tree of life, receiving the four winds of the earth and the higher frequencies of love and wisdom from those who came before us, the ancient ones, the ancient hearts of the trees and the stones and the waters and the teachings of the earth, the spirit of the earth. And your divine presence, your divine nature revealed to you right here in your human nature, your human spirit. And it all aligns within you with the light of the pure heart, the heartbeat of the earth, the heartbeat of creation. Breathe deeply and receive. Receive the light of peace, the power of peace. As you receive the light of the divine mind, it fills your breath and awakens your authentic self within you, all the way through your gut, your heart, and your brain, as it all applies practically today for you. And the things that you have going in your practical daily life, Reiki is flowing in, creating stability and clarity. Breathe deeply and receive as the Reiki fills your body and your breath, and in the ways and the worries of the world, the things that hide your self from your own view. The light of Reiki envelops any of the cords and connectors of any injuries to you, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. And from any time in your soul's history, other lifetimes, this lifetime, ancestral histories, cellular memories, DNA, and the light of Reiki travels in on your breath, envelops any of the injuries or limitations to you, any of their cords or connectors or attachments, carries them into the light, and through the power of love and divine compassion, they are healed. And there's clarity of mind for you as you breathe in and the light fills your vitality and your vibrancy, your inner wisdom and truth, awakening it within you, revealing your skills, your gifts, your talents, the gifts of your DNA, other lifetimes, ancestral histories, the knowledge and the wisdom. And from the stones and from the great trees, the mother trees around the world, plants, the earth, the waters, the lineage of the animals and the birds and the trees, and the wisdom of the four winds and the power of the thunders. And the light of the moon orients your body with the cycles of the days and with the earth. And your body aligns with the sunrise and the sunset and the planetary movements. So breathe deeply as you receive the stability of the earth. It's the tree of life, and your roots grow deeply around you. Your roots are made of the earth and receive of the earth. Your roots also share with the earth what you need. And so this great connection made today for you to bring it into your practical daily life, in the changing of the seasons, the cycle. And so just simply breathe in and receive. Take this time to be about you and for you. And you bring your energy in close to you now from any place where it has been scattered. Letting go as it comes back in close to you, where it has been scattered, where your empathy has touched the external world in ways that are causing you harm. Just bring your energy back in, and as it flows through this light of Reiki, letting go of those external sources. And now, as your empathy is powerful, it lifts into the higher frequencies that are also available, and you empower them. And the light of Reiki lifts your consciousness and your inner awareness to your inner truth and the higher frequencies of you. And it brings clarity of mind, who you are. And today, aligning you with yourself in depth as the light of Reiki fills all the space around you, creating a bubble around you. Hearth, divine compassion, receiving from above, receiving from below, balanced, and as the balance is here, peace is present. And what that means to you, balance and peace, revealing your wholeness. It's right here inside of you today. So breathing in the light of Reiki, that it brings to you the gifts of practicality, solutions, resourcefulness, clarity, creativity, innovation. Balance. And so we take this time right now to to invite the power of this circle, those who are here live today and all of you listening later. We take the power of this circle and the power of our prayers, our intentions for peace. And we gather here with the intention the peace grids are tonight, although this will be posted tomorrow or next week. It's all still relevant. And we send to the peace grids, may the followers of the world's religions and spiritual paths work together to create peace among all people on earth. We strengthen the rivers of peace and power, peace in the prayers of or with others. Peace grids all around the earth and all the ways that they are done. Think of all the peace flags in the Himalayas and around the world. And so we take our voices at this moment and we empower this voice of peace now within. For our loved ones, our families and friends, communities, and around the world. And for the earth and the animals. As it flows through you, it's within you and all around you. We welcome the enlightened ones that join us and hear our prayers. And we invite the power of peace from you, showing us the ways. And we say thank you to the earth, as the earth knows these things and the wisdom of the ancients. Those teachers who came before us, calling to the divine in the heavens and the divine in the earth and the divine within, to live healthy human lives. Say thank you to you, taking this time within you to connect to you, to know you, to receive. Breathe deeply. And we say thank you to each other. Circles always divinely ordered. All who are here live and those who listen later. Even those who hear through all the other means in which they hear through the energies, the power of love. Thank you. And so we receive this light and divine compassion. Thank you. And so it is. So I'm going to go ahead and come back in fairly quickly because I know we're still running the recording. So welcome back, everyone. And thank you all for being here. So I think, Robyn, do you want to kind of start with some things?
So our first question comes from Susan. Go ahead, Susan.
All right. So my question is about comparing basically what feel like two different techniques or very similar techniques, which is this concept of having the Reiki and the angels lifting away, the cords, connectors, attachments, soul injuries with the Reiki and connected to the river of life. And I wonder how that compares to the technique that William brought in 2014 with Holy Fire Reiki, healing spirit attachments. And I did ask him a few questions about that at different upgrades, and he mentioned that in regular Reiki sessions, attachments could be lifted away. And for me personally, that's been my focus for a long time, is helping people release things that are attached to them. And I've employed different techniques to do, different aspects of it. So I guess I just want to learn more about how you view it with the Reiki lifting away these things. When William created this technique, or perhaps it was William and Colleen, but it felt very official. Like, it made me nervous. Like, if I didn't do it exactly the way he said, that, something would fail. And so I guess I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
So, Robyn, do you want to answer that, or you want me to?
Go ahead, Colleen. I think that you have a more of an expertise around William's technique as well.
It's a really great question, Susan, and it's one that I've been learning from since 2014 when Holy Fire Reiki came in. And I was very aware that people were asking if it was soul retrieval. And having been extensively trained in shamanic soul retrieval, to me, they are very different techniques and energies. So even though I think it's not a comparison of better than, they're just different techniques and different modalities.
Yeah.
So understanding that I had, extensive experience with soul retrieval and using Reiki with it, and the awareness that this energy came in and it was different. And so then I had to ask the energy how it was different. Like, why was it coming in and showing me to do things differently? And so I'd be in sessions, and when the session was, scheduled as a soul retrieval, I would ask the energy how it did that work, and it started to teach me. And then, doing sessions with that question, probably, well into a year of going through the transition of truthfully, like, letting go of my old practices and going into new ones, and really in depth listening to the energy, and as well as the techniques that were developed for Holy Fire Reiki, like the experiences. The spirit release, I think, was developed more in depth in 2018 with the Holy Fire 3 upgrade. I would say that the spirit release had a shift in how it was practicing. And I think that's one of the things to know, is that, first of all, the energies are teaching us. And a lot of times it's based on the questions that we ask. So, like the question you're asking, what is the difference? So, I have done probably in the, well into the high thousands and 5 to 10,000, maybe somewhere of spirit release. I've done a lot of it, and soul retrieval, and then this awareness of what we call the spirit reveal technique. So that's what you are hearing, is that there is another technique that we are using, and our name for that is the spirit reveal technique. And it's what we teach through the Next Step Reiki courses. That's specifically what we're teaching, is how to work with that technique, journeying and channeling it through observing, which I know you do already, but it's a teaching for that. So the spirit attachment, as it's written in the manual, first of all, I've worked with William for so many years, and sometimes the way he writes sounds like it's more like you have to do it exactly like this. But when you work with him, he's not like that. He's like, oh yeah, there's all kinds of right ways to do it. So that's step one. Is, however, at the same time, when we were just in the Japan class, I actually asked him to teach the spirit release technique from the Holy Fire Manual, because I wanted to hear how he did it. And so anyway, he did just teach it to read it directly from the manual, just straight through the technique. And I was so amazed at how powerful it was that way, because for me, I've been doing a lot of it with the spirit reveal technique. So in a long story of it, as I worked with William, when we both did work with that technique of the spirit reveal technique, there's also another level, or the spirit release. There's also another level in the spirit reveal technique. And here's one of the big comparisons of what I learned as asking Reiki how it was doing this work, is that it actually did focus on the gifts and talents that were being revealed as the strongest power of healing. So the release is one part of it. And the release, of course, needs to happen. But it was showing me that we had so much focus on what was being healed, and that the greater power of healing is when our authentic self is revealed. So that's what this technique does, is takes it into that next level of awareness of, when you listen to it, like if you go back, this invocation was a little bit different. They're always channeled, but if you listen to it, there's the avenue, or there's the technique of really experiencing the Reiki energy. So when I'm doing that, like in a group like this, it's having that happen on your breath and having each person receive it, and you get very filled with the energy. Then the Reiki energy comes in to clear away the things that hide people from their authentic self, caused by injuries, to their spirit, their body, their mind, emotions. For whatever reason, they're there. And so you'll hear me use the words soul's history. So to me, what the soul's history is it's going deeper beyond this lifetime into the experiences of the soul. And in the experiences of the soul, there can be injury. And it can go all the way back. It can come through injury, can come through. And by injury, I mean, it can be from trauma. It can be, it's vast of what might need to be healed. So the energy actually envelops from ancestral histories to DNA, to cellular memory, and it can go in and it can release cords, connectors, and attachments that are there to these energies. And it's important to also recognize that when we release what we let go of, the way Reiki energy works is that it heals what we let go of. It heals what we release. So the next part of it, and even though all of our stuff is channeled, it's still holding these components. So the first part of bringing the energy in, the second part of doing the releasing, the healing, the letting go, and now is the bringing in part. And the bringing in part, the way Reiki energy works, is it's going to come in and wake up your cellular memory from your soul's history anytime of your authentic self, lifetimes where you learned skills and you had lifetimes of maybe peace or contentment or fame or mastery. So equally do we have things that need to be healed. We equally have the parts of us that can be revealed. So this also was validated in an article by Martha Lacey, who's a Mayo Clinic physician, and she wrote the article about epigenetics and how Reiki energy actually wakes up those genes within us of those higher frequencies, because the energy of Reiki is a higher frequency. So it entrains our energy and our cellular body to those higher qualities. And so that includes consciousness. It includes, today was so specific in the intuition about it, really bringing us into our day, like our practicalities of how does this Reiki energy apply to our practicalities. And so in the way that, if you go back and listen to it in the way that it worked, it involved the bringing in, the letting go, and then the bringing in. And in this time, it was focused on our grounded connection with the earth and ourselves and our daily life, our gut brain, our heart brain, our brain. And so as it reveals, what the Reiki energy has shown me is that we call this the spirit reveal technique. And the way it reveals who we really are is the most powerful healing that can happen when we're operating from our wholeness, when we're operating from, maybe we don't feel whole, but, we have that part of us is in there. When we're operating from a clearer perspective. So that's what you're hearing. I can hear you hearing it like, oh, I hear there's a difference in these techniques. So they are, but there's the similarities in that in the spirit reveal technique, we are absolutely letting go of spirit attachments if those exist. And in the spirit release technique, we are absolutely bringing the energy in, letting go of the attachments, cords, and connectors, and then also bringing in the parts, healing the parts that were injured by the attachments. This just, in my experience, goes to the next level. The technique could be done by reading it. We have that, the invocation. By reading it, in our next step classes, just to take it a step further, because of all of my teachings and trainings through the years with shamanism, journeying, I definitely recognized in people that they wanted to go to that next depth of understanding how Reiki energy works. And so that's where, Robyn's been working with this technique all these years too. So not just me, and Danny, and a lot of the people who've been in these trainings for a long time. But, we realize that these are abilities we have, and yet there isn't a lot of training for it. And so that's why we started those classes. And, next step is 3 1-year classes. And then we have the 12 Heavens class, which is the next step classes are focused on the training for that spirit reveal and Reiki journey techniques and channeling. The 12 Heavens classes, we do Reiki journey techniques to explore the dimensions of the 12 heavens of consciousness. So, very long explanation, but I think it probably answers you well. I can hear that you can hear the distinction between them.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything else around that?
I guess my question is, do you ever feel called to just really use the healing spirit attachment technique? Even if you've already done, what you do in the kind of your invocation journey with a client, do you ever feel called that you really need to address some attachments?
Absolutely. Yes. So good question, because what you're experiencing in groups like this is a group invocation. When it's an individual that I'm working with, then it goes to that person on a personal level. And the spirit release technique, as it is written and practiced, is really effective. And yes, it is a very important technique that works. And I definitely still use it. I have a little bit different languaging around it, truthfully. So I use my own language, but I'm definitely doing the technique itself. And for anyone wondering, the spirit release technique is in our Holy Fire Reiki Master and Karuna Reiki Master classes. So, if you look back at the Reiki 1 and 2 manual, the Healing Touch manual, it includes the awareness that Reiki does spirit release. And also, for any of you wondering about it, you may have other ways that it's already working for you. And so that way is valid too. So there's lots of ways to do it, and lots of ways, frankly, speaking of training, that I was trained in spirit release in my shamanic work. And that was a very intensive technique. And so when this one came in, I was like, well, I'm going to try that, and I absolutely immediately switched to this technique because it's so effective. But also, here's the big thing, and so was the other one I was working with, was also compassionate. But this is very compassionate. And because what is released is healed, there's just no resistance. I mean, there could be a little bit that'll show up, like, I'm not going, or something like that. But really, ultimately, the way I see it happening is the way that light of Reiki will shine onto that attachment that is connected to a person or something. And it actually shows and reveals, again, going back to that revealing, the light that is in that spirit, because it's in everything. And that's when, once that spark of light, because a lot of times they don't see it anymore. They've lost track of it. And so the light of Reiki will go in and reveal it. Sometimes it's only a pinpoint, but it's enough to create that opening where then they will lift into the light with the awareness that they're not being cast out, they're not being thrown away, they're going into the light, and whatever needs to happen with them is based on the authority of love and the authority of compassion. And forgiveness often is in the mix. So those things occur with them. And the practitioner is not using any of their energy. So that is what is very different in this technique than the way I was trained before. As before, it was a high level of my own energy and the energy of the spirit itself. So this technique is, like, to me, I use it all the time. It can be standalone. Sometimes there's times when, people pick up spirit attachments. We think of it as so big and scary. And most of the time, they really just need to go home. Most of the time, something needs to happen. And I also find that a lot of times, the spirit attachments have spirit guides that have guided to the practitioner that can release them and get them back. Go ahead, Susan.
So one more thing about this that you reminded me of that I also heard William say, and it might even be in the book, about he indicated that certain diseases in the body may not heal until the spirit attachments are healed and released.
Well, the thing with things in the body healing is they can be caused by so many different things, and a spirit attachment might be one of them. And we can do a spirit release and the body still doesn't heal. So that's, I guess, more than anything, I want to be clarifying. Or let me put it this way, rather than using the word healing, the body may not be cured, but the healing happens. The change for the person happens, because it's still never healthy to have an attachment. But there's a certain level of observation of, like, we have a sense of it all being diabolical and evil, and I don't find that. I find most of the time it's really just different levels of consciousness. And as a practitioner, since I'm not doing the work, I've just observed how Reiki does it. And so I just find that a lot of times it will go, but at the same time, if a spirit attachment is the cause of an illness, as we know with everything, I don't know the outcome and can't predict the outcome. I've had miraculous cures happen in my hands, and I've had people pass away in my hands. So, as practitioners, to trust and to know that the healing happens in the way that is needed for the person, and we don't always understand, and they don't always understand, that's for sure too. A lot of times people don't understand. Also, for any of you doing any of this work, for me, I have a lot of discernment with it and a lot of experience with it. And, if I feel like a client is going to be scared by the term spirit release, you do not have to share with them that that's what you're doing. I did get a question about whether we need permission. So let's say, somebody and you're like, well, they got a spirit attachment. That would be a permission-based thing. My thought around it, so let's say you decided you were going to do a spirit, and I'm not talking to you, Susan. This question actually came in, and it's related, and through email about permission. So, let's say you thought, I'm going to do a spirit release here, and if the person doesn't want that, Reiki always honors a person's free will. So we can't make something happen, even if we think we can or we try. And so the energy is always flowing through us rather than from us. So permission would be, for instance, can I send distance Reiki right now to a region and heal any attachments to, that are causing problems around the world. Let me just put it that way. And I'm going to send it to a region. Those that want to receive it may, and those who don't won't. And so it's one of the powerful ways that Reiki works. It's so helpful to know that, we're just conduits. And as even today in the way we did our work, we gather together and we empower what we can in the ways that we can and empower these higher levels of consciousness. But anyway, so that adds to just that permission part of it, that, if I knew, like, I wouldn't do it with a person that I knew didn't want me to, or I felt like I was doing it behind their back or something. But if I genuinely just think, hey, I can do this and I'm going to do this, and ask Reiki to let me know if they want to receive it, or just send it and let Reiki handle it, that's possible. So it's really kind of ask Reiki is the ultimate answer to that. But anyway, back to you, Susan. Is there anything else with that?
I think that has given me a lot of food for thought. Similar to you, I feel like I'm sort of transitioning from, all sorts of different beliefs about soul retrievals, attachment that I've experienced in the past. And I would be very curious to know your own wording around the healing spirit attachments that you've tweaked, because I've tweaked William's wording, in various places too. And yeah.
And he supports that, by the way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm saying for other people too, like,
right.
You just can't, I say it probably way too often. It's like, well, you can say it this way, or you can say it your way. And that could be this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, so lots of that. There's lots of right languaging to use.
Yeah.
When you look at the language and, you would ask for your own, when you look at the technique and what it's actually doing, it's bringing in that energy of Reiki. It's filling the spirit with that light, because that's what it's saying. And in the languaging in the manual, it talks about filling the spirit with God's light and love. So it's filling them with that light. Then it is flowing through the spirit with all of its effects, attachments, cords, connectors, anything. I have to think about some of the language.
There's something about assignments.
So that to me is curses. Who gave assignments to the spirit to be attached to the person if it's a curse? So that to me is, and anything. And so there's the soul's history part of it. And from any time. So you probably know the language. I don't have my manual right in front of me, but anyway, so yeah, listen for that on your languaging. Like, look at what the energy is actually doing, and then what's your language for that. And then for others, you can use the exact language too. So there's a lot of right ways to do it. And, just understanding how the technique works, and then how you explain that.
I don't have trouble actually so much with the languaging, but I don't feel it actually takes as much time as he recommends. And I think he just creates this like window of time to kind of have a technique, kind of anchored in some rules. But for me, it feels like it usually happens much quicker, that I don't have to take 15 minutes to do that technique. It can actually happen quicker.
And you're exactly right, because, and I know for myself writing, because I write also, you're a writer also. For many people, they are going to want the exact do it like this. And that's helpful. That's because you have to learn the technique somehow. There has to be something that gives us a physical, like, way to work with it that we can understand and physically do. There's a doingness to it. When you understand the nature of it and you watch how Reiki does it, it just does it. And I'm with you. It happens quickly. Sometimes it happens longer if that's the basis of the session, but it happens quickly. So there's lots of right ways around this. And so I think the idea of it being like necessary to do it exactly the way it's written, that it's not meant to be like you have to do it exactly this way. But I will tell you, the way William did it in class, he just went through word for word, and it took maybe 5 minutes. And it was like, I felt this whole thing coming off of me. And, was like, well, that worked. So that way works too.
And I'm gonna jump in for just a little bit, and then I think because we have a whole list of questions to also get through. So I think too, and Colleen, kind of what you've said is that it's a technique and it works, and we know that it works, right? And it's kind of the same thing as a lot of things that are written in the manual, that it is a really great jumping off place. And if you don't know how to do it, it's like, oh, great, here's a way, a technique that I can use to do it. And it's like, the hand positions, when you first start out, you're probably going to follow the hand positions pretty close to how they're written in the manual. And then as you get more practiced in it and more confident in your own abilities or listening to the Reiki energy, you might switch it up a little bit. So it is a nice place to have a start. And then at the same time, I know for Colleen and myself and Danny and lots of other people that are in here, each client is going to be different in how the Reiki shows us to do a spirit release. And you're right, Susan, that we have that invocation that's part of the spirit reveal technique that covers a lot of bases. It's great to do for a group. But when we're talking about in our individual sessions, it might just be a spirit release. It might just be a cord healing. It might just be ancestral history work, not all three of those things. And that the wording, what it's showing, the technique and how exactly it comes through is going to be different for every single client, because the situation is different for every single client. What we do know is that Reiki heals it in all of those ways that Colleen talked about, and that we, use the spirit reveal technique to do this work. And that also Reiki just on its own is going to do this healing work. So with every client, you might have a different way that it shows up for you, Susan. Not every single client has spirit attachments, but any time a spirit attachment comes through for a client, it might be unique to that. I think there's a basis of how it does its work. There's that common thread there, but individually, it might be that it's going to look or feel, or you have a different sense of every single time, that there might be a uniqueness to it. And so just following your own guidance with it, and to know that, Reiki is going to have some sort of similarities in the way that it heals each one, because Reiki heals in a certain way, right? It's going to, as the technique talks about, bring things into the light of Reiki. The Reiki light is going to help return each of us to our wholeness and that kind of remembering of that God self within. But that it's okay that each experience, each client is unique in how spirit release shows up for them and for you. Okay, so I think too, we'll go ahead and move on to the next question. This one is from Cheryl. Cheryl's usually here. She wasn't able to join us today. So let me go ahead and read her question. Frequently, it's said to remember to receive Reiki when in distance Reiki share for the breakout rooms. Yet it has been said in Reiki classes that one receives Reiki while giving Reiki. Since Reiki is flowing through one to give Reiki, I think the giver is receiving Reiki while giving. Am I mistaken in my interpretation of a Reiki session, or is it a matter of intention to remember one is receiving instead of just giving, or is one to stop sending Reiki and just receive in a breakout room? So what Cheryl is talking about is, I have said in the distance Reiki shares that we do Tuesday mornings. Cheryl is a regular there. And we go into breakout rooms after we do a talk, after we do a meditation or an invocation. Then we will go into breakout rooms to give and receive Reiki with each other. So that's what she's referring to. And I've said in the past to, if you're doing it where as a group you are giving and receiving at the same time, to also remember to go into that position of receiving, and asking the clarifying question of, but wait, I thought we also receive Reiki while we're giving Reiki. That is kind of a fundamental piece of Reiki energy and giving Reiki. And so, yes, she is right. Yes, Cheryl, you're right that it is a fundamental piece of Reiki energy that you do receive at some level while you are also giving Reiki. Also, having said that, though, there is a difference in just allowing yourself to receive. Like, so if you're going into a Reiki session, there's going to be a difference in you giving a Reiki session to somebody else versus like you lying on a table and receiving a Reiki session. And so many of us in Reiki tend to also be overgivers. And so if we are in a group setting, we tend to only focus on the giving to other people. And there is a different level of also remembering to receive the Reiki. Yes, is there some level of you're going to receive anyways, whether or not you remember, like, oh, I'm going into receiving mode. But because we are overgivers, so often we tend to just think, okay, I'm sending Reiki to every single other person. Let's, if we just use the example here in this group. Okay, so I am sending to all the people here in this group. But if we're in a situation where we are also supposed to be receiving from every other single person in this group, in the sense that we're doing group Reiki with each other, there is a little bit of a frequency shift in the idea that, oh, okay, so I also have to remember to receive from every single person in this group. And if you even just sit in that for a moment, if you sit in the idea that, okay, I'm giving to everybody here. Oh, and now I'm going to remember to receive from everybody here. There's a definite shift in the energy that you can feel. And so it's just this awareness that because so many times we are over givers, that we also have to remember to receive. And if you also even just think about your experience as a practitioner, when you've given Reiki to somebody, you're receiving at the same time. But now also go into your experience of being a Reiki client. So when you've received a Reiki session, there's a difference there. You know, you can definitely know that there's a difference in how that feels, how that is, the level of healing that is being received in those times. And so that's when I say to remember to receive as well. Like when we're in group Reiki with that, and we're supposed to be giving as well as receiving, that there is a reminder that we also have to go into not just the doing, but also the receiving, not just the giving, but also the receiving, so that you are actually, being in that state of receptivity, being in that state of receiving, because there is a little bit of a difference. It's not to say that you don't also receive while you're giving, you do. But there is a difference in those two states of awareness, and also just making sure that you're taking some time for you to allow others to be able to give to you to allow yourself to just kind of fully be in that receiving mode with Reiki without any action required by you to, reciprocate that. Like there's no action required by you. You just get to be allowed to receive Reiki from other people. So Colleen, do you have anything to add to that?
Nope, I think that sounds great.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next questions. And Cheryl, I hope that clarifies for you. Let me know I know you'll listen to the recording. You can let us know if it didn't answer fully your question. You can email us or let us know in the Distance Reiki share, because I know we'll see you there. Okay, Kaz, your questions are up.
You guys answered it all.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, because I wanted to do a spirit reveal for somebody because they got this nasty habit, an everyday nasty habit. But Colleen says, ask Reiki and see if it will be absorbed by these people. And it's like, you know what, Colleen, sometimes I really don't care about that free will thing. Sometimes I got to get that mothering instinct that I never really experienced in this particular instant. But I'm gonna go with that. I'll try that first. If not,
and the thing with Reiki is, even if you agree with it or not, Reiki still won't impose just because you want it to.
I'm gonna really have to talk to Reiki.
So there's the piece to know, is like, you can say, you know what, I'm doing it. It's still not going to impose it just because you want it to. They have to want to receive it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, like, I'm a Gemini. I'm like that, like, okay here and okay there, and there ain't no middle ground.
yeah.
Yep. Well, you know what? I'm going to try it anyway. I'm going to see what happens.
So here, how when we do the preparations, we invite Reiki and we get all like connected, and then we go, and now I set my personality and ego aside for the highest good of all. That's what that helps with.
Oh, I mean, even if the spirit reveal like backfires and comes back to me, it's still going to be a good thing.
Well, that's true, but it would never backfire either. It's not, that's one of the things that I think we're healing in this work is, or with the energy of Reiki, is it just doesn't have that, well, you didn't do it right, so I'm not coming, or you did something else, so I'm not coming. It just doesn't have all that dogma that we've been raised to believe in. Like it wouldn't do that.
Learning to let go again. Okay.
Like, let's say it was even something negative, and you're like, well, yeah, I'll take the spirit reveal. But let's say it was something else. It just wouldn't reverberate back in a negative way on you. So anyway, pretty funny, Kaz. Keep us posted.
Always. And now the other one was the difference between the spirit reveal and the spirit attachment. But this is what I got, so maybe I just need a little clarification. Either one works, but like energy goes in. Sorry, my allergies are kicking me. So the energy goes in, it takes out the trauma and heals that spot.
Yes.
And they both work kind of like the same way.
Yes.
It's just, instead of drinking coffee, drink chocolate milk. Like, it's both gonna work. Okay, good. I'm good I'm good until next one. Yeah, because believe it or not, I'm actually starting to do a little work on my own, right, Robyn? And I think that whatever that last conversation that we had in next step, I mean, it like, bing, 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 wake up. Yo, dude, wake up. So, there's a time and a place for everything. And remember that God question, Robyn?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm convinced God is a drag queen. That's all I know right now. Thank you so much.
That's why we all get to have our own perspective, you know?
I wanted to add to the first question, Kaz, is that you'll feel it too. If somebody is like, nope, I actually had this happen. It wasn't recent, but it was relatively recently, where I was sending Reiki because somebody was going through a really challenging situation. But I wasn't in a place where I could receive permission from it, even though this person has received Reiki in the past from me. And so it was more of just a general, like, I'm sending Reiki because, for your highest good type thing. And she was like, nope, I do not want you. And you can feel it when they back you off like that. So as Colleen said, Reiki wouldn't go to somebody anyway, even if we have other thoughts. And it wasn't like I was trying to force Reiki on this person. It was really just because, there was mental health stuff involved, and I was just really trying to send Reiki for their highest good. And there was a definite no there. And I could feel that. And as soon as I felt that, I was like, yes, of course, like, no problem. But a lot of times you'll feel Reiki really set that boundary and back you off from it.
I felt that I was trying to give Reiki to somebody, and it was like, whoa,
yeah,
whoa, what's that? And it's like, oh, okay. It's a really wacky feeling when it comes back. It's like, no.
It was
Okay.
a no, thank you. It was a no,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's like crazy. All right.
I mean, you definitely know. That's what I would say is you definitely, like, from my experience, and I've sent Reiki to people that, I would just be sure they would want me to, like, and then you get that no, and then I've been able to validate with them later, and it was a no. And so for whatever reason they had in that moment, it wasn't a no to Reiki, it wasn't a no to healing, it was a no to that moment. And it was pretty clear. World events, I've had that. I've had that with fire with Robyn.
Yeah. And we just had a comment that they felt it with family member as well. And so, it's interesting. And, it's that at that point you realize that, oh yeah, of course I will, respect your free will, but it is always amazing that Reiki, and most, all of us are sending it out of the goodness of our heart just because we want to help. Exactly. It's not like we are trying to send it because, we think that it's what they should do and all of that. We just want to send healing and love and all of that. And, hopefully anything that can help the person, because that's our experience of it. But it is also nice to know that Reiki can draw those boundaries in the times that the boundaries need to be drawn for the other person, so that, like, we can release any pressure about what that yes and no looks like. So I don't have to wonder, oh, does this person say yes or no? I mean, if it's somebody that I know wouldn't want to receive the Reiki, I wouldn't do it in any way. Like, if I know for a fact that they would not want to receive Reiki, that's a different scenario. But in this kind of situation where I know that they're okay with Reiki, I've sent Reiki in the past, all of those kinds of things, that there is a bit of a relief to know that Reiki really doesn't go to them unless they are really wanting it in that moment, because it draws the boundaries for us.
Yeah, well, sometimes, like people have to go through the garbage to get to the other side. And if they don't go through enough of the garbage, they're only going a little and they really need to get over there with their own help. So, yeah, I get that. But I'm going to try it anyway.
Well, and that's where it also removes so much of the responsibility from us as practitioners. And because for myself, I stay within the scope of my practice, and I'm not a counselor, and I'm not a therapist. I'm a Reiki practitioner. And so in a lot of ways, knowing that we let Reiki do the work and it's flowing through us, and we just get out of the way, really helps us stay within the scope of our practice. Because I don't know what's best for everybody, even if I think I do.
I don't even know what's best for me.
Less of that as I get older.
All right. I think I have to have a talk with this person first.
Yeah. Yeah. And just make it light. Like, hey, can I give you Reiki? Or sometimes one of the things that I've done with a lot of people that is easy, if I'm in the same room with them, I'll just say, hey, can I put my hands on your shoulders and give you some Reiki? And keep doing what you're doing and just talk, so that it's not like, okay, now lay down and I'm giving you a session, or
and I'm going to heal everything about you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that's the part, there's fear there.
Yeah.
About that, because that can be a really big process as well. So there can be fear around that as well. So if you can just make it about stress reduction and that kind of thing, sometimes that's an easier way to accept.
Yeah, because some people are so afraid of any kind of change.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, what's going to happen after?
Yeah. All right. Practitioners don't know everything, so that's where we just let the energy do the work, and it's helpful. The more and more I've gotten out of the way, which that term is a term itself, about getting out of the way. It's freedom, truthfully.
So when I finish next step, I'm not going to know everything. The devil made me say it. Was that Flip Wilson?
I love it.
I don't want to know everything. That's too much.
I know, right? Overload.
I'm good.
All right.
My little.
Thank you.
That's what gets so exciting is oh, I don't know everything. There's still more to know.
Yeah, the opportunity.
Yeah. It's like, oh, cool. What's next? Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. So the next question is, as I was preparing for Holy Fire 3 Karuna Reiki Master class a couple of weeks ago, I read something as if for the first time. William wrote in the manual that Reiki attunements / placements attune the soul to Reiki. The Holy Fire ignition ignites the spirit, though. The Holy Fire ignition, though, ignites the spirit. In my mind, I'm thinking, well, of course, that's why Holy Fire allows us to connect to and live as our authentic self. Then I began to wonder, did the Reiki I learned 10 years ago only attune me at the soul or maybe even chakra level? And just curious about perspective and thoughts around this.
Well, I've given a lot of thought to this exact statement, because the idea that the attunements that I received through my Usui and then Usui Tibetan, Usui Tete, the Gendai Reiki Ho, the different Reiki lineages that I've received and the symbols that I've worked with, and that those have attuned me at a soul level, and that then Holy Fire came in and attuned me at a spirit level. So I've really asked a lot about that. And I think that it's still one of those that each person would need to ask that question for your perception around that with Reiki. And I think it's a really great question to ponder. Now, also, I want to share that I'm not so sure that all the different levels of Reiki did not elevate to that next level of attuning us at the spirit. So I want to clarify that I don't know that I think it's only through Holy Fire Reiki. Because I've seen such an elevation in the energy, evolution in the energies, not just Reiki, but, really being in these fields, we hear and see a lot from other modalities and practitioners. And I'm hearing a lot of people talking about the evolution and elevation of, now my words are caught up, but that the energies are elevating into these higher levels. So with that explanation said, let me go to your question about it. My experience with Holy Fire Reiki, when I really ask this question, is yes, there is that next level. And if we think of ourselves, because we're all connected, there's no separation. So it's not like, well, the soul isn't connected too. It just goes to that next deeper level of giving us access to our spirit. So the way I think about that, and this is just how I've wrapped around the ideas of it, is that our spirit is the part of us that is completely whole. It isn't injured, hasn't sustained injury. It's always whole. It's always with us through every incarnation. It's with us through every experience of our soul. Our wholeness is always present. And in different incarnations, we have more connection to our spirit and our wholeness. Being a human being, part of the experience of Earth as the first heaven, I experience it that we have been taught that we are separate, that our spirit is separate from our soul is separate from our body, that we're separate from the earth, each other, from God, all these layers of separation. So the way that I'm noticing this energy working in attuning us at that spirit level is it's really healing those experiences of separation, at least in the knowing of it. Like for myself, I now know that my spirit, my soul, my personality, my human self, it's all one. It's not, I'm not separate anywhere, but I can have experiences of being separate. Like my daily life can feel separate from my soul's awareness. And we get different glimpses at different times if we're interested in knowing more. And which I really just had in Egypt. I would say that was one of the experiences when I was in the pyramid in the king's chamber and I was lifted out into the stars. I definitely experienced myself at my soul level and could see how much I love the earth. But getting to the nature of the symbols, when you think of like the Usui master symbol, there's not a hierarchy to it being connected to the soul or connected to the spirit. There's not a better than, because we need connection to all of us. So I think of that DKM, the Usui master symbol, as a very deep connection with my human self. Like I'm very aware of my soul with my human self, my merging of my chakras on a very tangible, real level. And then Holy Fire is like my spirit ignites. Like all of a sudden I'm aware that my spirit's poof, and it ignites and it's running through my body, running through my soul, all the levels of my consciousness. And then I'm still human. So I'm still going to be having all of these perceptions or unifications or whatever you want to call them, from that experience of all levels of myself. One of the things we've really seen in the 12 Heavens class, because we're exploring that with everybody, because it's all kind of new to really explore it at the depth we are, is like that awareness of going deeper and deeper into self, because we are those levels of consciousness. And how do we get there? How do we get access to our inner awareness that our spirit is here, it's completely whole, and we have access to it. And then that it's still going to operate within our human consciousness. So to me, even today's invocation, and then the conversation about the spirit release and the things that we were talking about, going back to the awareness of the technique we call your spirit reveal technique, is that's the nature of it. The energy is now coming in to reveal us at our spirit level, our soul level, and then our human level as a unified consciousness and unit, like, all things are operating, and revealing what that means, that you have wholeness that's here. Your divine guidance can be from you as a divine being, and that you have wholeness in that spark within you that's always there and always connected, and that operates through your soul's level, heals the injuries, and reveals the gifts and abilities from your soul's level into your daily life today. So a lot of it to me really still comes down to the great remembering, because the earth is the planet of the great forgetting. Not everybody wants to remember, so it's not that that's the goal of every person, but for those of us that, are doing this kind of modality, that's really ultimately what you're doing, whether you're a practitioner for others or however you're using it, it's really to get to the depth of you and who you really are in your authentic self. So they're all tools in your tool bag, and they're all equal. And so there's not a hierarchy of spirit or soul or personality. All parts of us are necessary, but the piece that went, like, we're ready to be connected to our spirit. We're ready to be connected to the awareness that, in fact, we are brilliant beings of the light living here. And, that concept maybe has been around, but in my lifetime, like the revelation of you are a spirit being human was like this big aha revelation. And that's recent enough. So how do we get there? How do we get to the experience of it and the knowing and the remembering of it? And so that's what the energy is doing. And I think that's why, like, Holy Fire upgrades all the time, because it's like we're ready. We've gotten to this level of expansion and unification, and now we're ready to even ask the questions to go to another level. So that's my own experience of it. Again, as always, that's why we go back to, you've got to talk to Reiki, because I'm definitely not the ultimate authority on our spirit, our soul, and everything. I just have my own experience and what I feel Reiki has taught us and me, and, through all different avenues of understanding. So I can share that understanding, but I also think it's really important for each of you. And, the one who wrote this specific question, and you guys talked about how you guys are talking about it, great subject to ponder and to get to know and to listen around that answer for lengths of time. And then understanding, this is the piece that I'll add to it. What Reiki is doing now, that's why we talk about not just the spirit reveal technique, but Reiki, what Reiki is doing is revealing that wholeness within you. Whether you know any of the techniques, and you just go give Reiki. You don't have to know all the techniques for Reiki to do what it does. We are observing what Reiki is doing, we're doing, but we're not making it happen because we're doing all the techniques and doing them correctly. So you can just go in and do Reiki and know that the energy knows how to do what it's doing. And the energy is what is revealing that spirit and unifying it within you and within the people that you're working with and through those attunements. We get to be whole, even though sometimes it feels far away. But it really is our divine right. So I also find there's a lot of unpacking to do around it too. So anyway, go ahead, Robyn.
Yeah, well, I think you kind of said all of it. I think it's, with Reiki, what it comes down to is what we are all called to practice, because there's other people in other lineages, including the Sui lineage, that feel that same connection and feel the Reiki ignited in their soul or their spirit, and however they define that, and connect that to that divine spirit or reveal that divine spirit within to them. And to me, the Usui has a slightly more earthly quality to it. Especially, you mentioned the master symbol, the Usui master symbol. To me, it's like the trunk of a tree where you have the earth and then you have the divine, and that Usui master symbol is the trunk, but also there was a great meme that Natalie I forget her last name right off the top of my head, but she's dive into Reiki, and she shared a great meme that just simply said, "No body, no enlightenment." And so the Reiki connecting into that awareness, that knowledge, that human piece of us that creates that sense of feeling of connecting into our spirit, or that enlightened piece of us. It is really just what we're all called to in order to be able to have that experience and to have that remembering. And Reiki is Reiki. And I might connect into the frequencies of holy fire more than I do a different lineage or a different style of Reiki, but that somebody else is going to get there through a different lineage, through a different style of Reiki. And so it really is just that pondering of maybe, why is that? That's something I like to ponder. Why is it that, I'm connected more into these frequencies as opposed to somebody else being connected in and receiving the same messages, receiving the same wisdoms that holy fire gives to me, that somebody else gets from another style or another frequency of Reiki energy. To me, I find that super fascinating, that of why. So it's not that they're not connected. They are, in the same way that I'm connected. It's like, well, wait a second, how does that work? So, I think it's just really, really whatever gets us to that awareness, gets us to that feeling inside, gets us to that remembering. And that's going to be different for each person. All right. So another question that we have: how do we know when it does not, and this question is kind of multi-pronged. How do we know when it does not work to practice Reiki? So the context of this question is when things are really challenging, and let's say you have a physical thing going on, you've been really sick, or you have a physical diagnosis, or in this case there was some violence perpetrated against this person. And so the question is that when does it work, or does it work to practice on others, or is it better to just stop? And let me just make sure that I'm getting all parts. Yeah, I think that that's kind of all parts. And so this is a common question, I think, not just in that scenario, but also when life is really, really challenging in all different forms. And practicing Reiki on others, what is our, is it okay to stop practicing Reiki on others? Where's that line? Those kinds of questions are around this when things are really challenging. And again, there's not going to be a right answer around this. It's going to be an individual answer on this, around this. The first thing that I would say is that, especially if you're a person that is a practitioner and gives a lot of Reiki, to remember to receive Reiki. That's a really, really big piece of it that we tend to forget as practitioners, or if we're a person that gives a lot of Reiki to other people. So that is the first thing, is remembering the worthiness of receiving, remembering that receiving helps, remembering that you probably have community that would like to support you because you support others in Reiki and when they need it, especially. So that's the first thing that I would like to kind of say around this, is really remembering in that receiving aspect of it, and how important that part of it can be, is the receiving. But also, as Colleen said earlier with Kaz's question, like there's no reverberation with Reiki, or jealousy with Reiki, or Reiki is going to stop working if you aren't able to give Reiki for a while. None of that is, Reiki doesn't have those frequencies within it. And so if you are finding yourself in a place where you are not able to give Reiki, that's okay. It will be there when you are ready to again. Sometimes when we're going through really challenging things, we can experience burnout, not with the Reiki energy, but with the time that it can take to give Reiki sessions, to where it's like, well, we need to actually go in and take care of ourselves and rest. That has to be our solution. That has to be our answer. In other cases, where maybe you don't have there's not really a possibility to stop giving sessions. Let's say you have a Reiki business, and as a practitioner, you need the income, even though you're going through a challenging part of your life. Just asking Reiki to come in and help to support you through that process. Also to, again, ask your community to help support you so that you can receive Reiki for others, so that your cup can remain as filled as possible, so that you can give to others. So there's a variety of different situations in which you might find yourself around this scenario, and to know that you can always also, if it's not something that you have to do for financial reasons, that you can always come back to it. You can do things like use your grid in order to send Reiki to the people that maybe you send Reiki to, so that you're not having to necessarily like sit there and give a distance Reiki session or an in-person Reiki session. So there are different ways that you can also do Reiki on the fly, use your Reiki grid, use, maybe note cards to send Reiki to for a little bit of time, and ask that Reiki support you in sending, more continuous Reiki outside of just the, maybe the minute that you're able to give Reiki. So there's a lot of different solutions around it. Some people are going to need to rest, stop for a little while, giving Reiki to others. Some might find it helpful. As we kind of talked about before, you do receive to a certain level as you give. So some might find that it's helpful to give Reiki while you're going through challenges. For a variety of reasons, you might find it helpful. So I would say that there's not really a one right way to navigate these different situations that we might find ourselves in, but also to have Reiki to help you navigate it as well. And remember to make sure that Reiki is flowing through you so that you are the vessel of Reiki rather than any of it coming from your own life force, as far as like giving to others. Allowing yourself to just simply run Reiki, because it's going to do that naturally as well, that it is going to come through you rather than from you, which is a really, really helpful part of Reiki when you are going through really challenging situations. But listen to it, allow it to help you navigate the situation that you are currently in, and even how you feel from day to day, even how you feel from time to time, those kinds of things. Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
I was just going to add to that. I think during challenging times, for me, continuing my Reiki sessions is very grounding, and it's a connection that's really just brings me out of my head a little bit. And it just reminds me of kindness and love and healing. And then also, I think too, in challenging times, I think of bowling. So it's like when you think of bowling and someone says, let's go bowling, and you're like, that sounds horrible right now. I do not want to go. I don't want to put stinky shoes on. I don't want to be around a bunch of people. But after you play, you're like, it's so fun and so uplifting. And so it's kind of like that. It's like, yeah, expectations can be surprising in challenging times. And then also, just to add, because I do register Colleen and Robyn students, and so sometimes people will be registered for a class and then they'll contact us and say, I'm really going through this difficult time, whether it's with their pet or their loved one or just personally. And they're like, I don't think this is the right time. They want to be in this perfect moment of having class. And I'll always say, I would try. I mean, I would start. I mean, if you need to bow out, that's okay. But I think it's meant to be. And there has never been a time that someone hasn't got back to us and said that was perfect timing. So sometimes when we think it's not, when we think it's not about us sometimes, but the Reiki will take care of us.
Thank you, Danny.
Yeah, I agree with everything both of you said. And yeah, there's just a lot of times, that I guess the main thing to know is that Reiki is dependent on your experience of it. It works anyway. And it's one of the gifts of it, and why, if you look at some of the basics that we teach, anyone can learn Reiki. It's not dependent on a level of skill that you have prior to receiving it. And so as it's what the attunement does is guarantees that the energy that is flowing through you is actually coming from Reiki rather than from you. And so it's a big difference in, really, again, just getting to let the energy do what it does. And I think in a lot of ways, it's really trying to teach us that we can let go of some of those expectations, requirements, responsibilities. And when I say responsible, of course, we're always still responsible. So I don't mean it that way. But, sometimes that taking it on that doesn't belong to us. And so there are all kinds of experiences that you'll have throughout time when you are giving Reiki, when you're teaching Reiki, when you're receiving Reiki. And just, I guess the longer I've done it, the more I just move into the trust. And like Danny said, if I'm struggling, I would rather be in a Reiki class more than anything, even if I don't feel good physically or, even emotionally. Like, yeah, it's a great place to be. So anyway.
Very true. I agree. And also to just really listen to yourself with it. I know, having gone through some pretty severe health issues over the last couple of years, there were times that I needed to rest. Most of the time it was helpful to give Reiki. It was helpful to be in class. It was helpful to receive Reiki, definitely. But then there was also the times where I did have to listen to what I needed in my body, and just know that that part of it was okay as well. If that is how you are feeling called. I would say, and what Danny said too is like with class, when I'm just receiving, yes, if I'm just able to be there and receive. But then also as a teacher, as a practitioner, there were times where I just was frankly too sick and I did have to take some time for me. And then there were other times where that wasn't an option. And then there were other, and so I just went ahead and asked Reiki for support or other people for support. And then there were other times where it was the right answer to be giving. It was the right answer to support others, because it also helped me, because you're in the energy, just like they said. So I just think that it's a case by case basis, and to know that you also can get to listen to you and get to listen to the Reiki energy and how it's guiding you. And it's not like the Reiki energy is going to be like, gosh, I can't believe you're not giving to other people right now. Like, it's not like that, it's not going to be like that at all. It will be there for you, and it's going to have non-duality and extremely loving and high frequency nature to it. And so it's definitely, there's not going to be any duality around whether it likes that or not, whether it's acceptable or not with it. Kaz, is this related?
Sort of.
Okay.
I had a friend who called me up and she was upset over something. And I says, okay, keep talking and put the Reiki symbols on yourself. And she go, oh yeah, okay, yeah. So, she's got the Reiki coming in and she's talking, and by the time the conversation was finished, she was fine. So, and then, sometimes you just need to call somebody for some kind of help, even if it's a 10-minute phone call.
Yeah.
To ask for help. Oh, wait, didn't we learn that the other day?
When we tried to learn that our whole life.
Yeah. But yeah, she was great after.
Yeah.
She was fine.
Does.
So.
And sometimes you forget. Like, oh yeah, I can have Reiki.
We forget. Yeah. And that's why it's good that, we do have community and we can call somebody's help, and it works out. It's always great. But, thanks, Colleen, Robyn, Danny. Thank you for everything.
You're welcome.
Well, we are getting to time. We have 2 more questions, so I'm going to answer them quickly. I am curious, specifically with Animal Reiki, which I haven't taken. I work with the Divine Animal Kingdom, Divine Canine Realm, and Tree of Life, but not have been formally attuned to the Animal Reiki symbol. My guidance says I'm in love and integrity with my intention to assist traumatized dogs and can continue to do so. I welcome your thoughts. Of course. The animal Reiki energy and the divine animal kingdom is a part of the animal Reiki. And the tree of life, definitely not specific or exclusive is a better word to use, not exclusive to animal Reiki. We have lots of people that have worked with the tree of life for forever. All of us had as authors. It's ancient symbol. Divine Animal Kingdom is who helped us write the manual. But again, lots of people have been working, obviously, with enlightened animals, the divine canine realm, of course. So the kind of short answer of that is absolutely. And just even the fact that you're asking the questions, and this is even outside of just this particular subject, and the fact that you're asking the questions and going into the discernment around, wait a second, like I'm working with this, but I haven't been attuned, and that kind of thing shows that you are within integrity with it and ethics. And that, like I said, that's outside of just the animal Reiki, energy, making sure you're in that discernment with it. So, but again, tree of life is a very ancient symbol and very ancient energy. And many of us have worked with it before, animal Reiki, and in different types of traditions as well. So, absolutely. And then the last question is, it's actually related. Okay, I often feel a need to invite Reiki symbols, yet I'm not attuned to do so, activate and assist for as long as needed. And I think this is pretty common that people, feel the energy of the symbols and feel the qualities of the symbols before that they are attuned. I know with like Holy Fire and the upgrades, people talk about that commonly, how they felt the upgrade coming in. They felt the qualities of the energy come in before the attunements. And a lot of times what this is also doing is it's also when you're feeling the energy before, it's also guiding you in that intuition of being attuned to the energy. But there's a lot of qualities that are very common across all of this. The big thing I would say, the ethics around it, is to not promote yourself as being attuned to it. So, if you're not attuned to the Reiki master level, I wouldn't promote yourself as being a Reiki master. I'd say that's kind of where the ethical lines are drawn. Or with animal Reiki, not promote yourself as being attuned to the animal Reiki symbol if you're not. But there's lots of right ways to work with Reiki. And I know people talk about this aspect quite a bit, that they feel the energy of the different types of modalities and things like that. And kind of are in their discernment around it. So, Colleen, I don't know if you have anything to add to that real quick before we sign off. You're muted.
Yep, I think it's all good.
All right, awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone. For those of you that are joining us live, for those of you that are listening later, we just are so grateful for you and these Q&As and this time together. For anything that you need from us, you can find it at reikilifestyle.com, and find our classes, all the different things that we do, at reikilifestyle.com. All right. Thank you, everyone.